Welcome back to a new video interview. As our guest today, we have Hannah Lutz. How are you, Hannah?
Hi, good. How are you, Sophia?
I'm fine, thanks. So for my first question, do you use like any mobility aids? So what do you use that?
I use a wheelchair full time, and I also have bilateral hearing aids, which just means hearing aids on both sides.
Oh, okay. So you are like partially deaf, or
deafness is a spectrum. It starts with a mild hearing loss and can go to all the way to profound hearing loss, but it's all considered deafness. I happen to be between moderately severe in one ear and then severe to profound in the other ear.
Okay, so do you use the hearing thing? I don't know what's it.
So that's called a cochlear implant. So there's several different types of hearing aids. There's in-ear hearing aids, which are just totally in the ear. There is receiver in-ear, which is the smaller type of hearing aid, which just has the receiver in the ear, and then it has a small part that goes behind the ear. And then there's a behind the ear hearing aid, which is this. It has a mold and a piece that goes behind the ear that has a microphone in it. And then I believe what you were referring to is a cochlear implant, which is actually surgically implanted behind the ear and has a magnet that goes onto it. And then the receiver is also behind the ear as well, but nothing is inside of the ear. It just has a receiver behind the ear with the microphone, and then a magnet that is on the back of the head. And I'm not completely educated on it, but as far as I am educated, you hear differently than you would with a microphone. The electronic, the sounds are picked up through the microphone, and then they are transverted into an electric sound that is heard through the processor in the brain.
Yeah. So as I'm understanding, you only have the one that has the microphone, right? The inside little microphone. Okay.
So I was post-lingually deafened. So I lost my hearing later in life. So I don't have any kind of accent. And a lot of people say, you don't sound deaf, or you don't, which is very, very rude to say, because some people are deaf and it's not a way to sound deaf, or there's not a look to be deaf, or there's not a look to be disabled. But I am post-lingually deaf, which means that I was deafened after I learned English.
Okay, so you became deaf. So you didn't born like with that disability. So you became deaf?
Yeah, I had mild hearing loss, and it worsened over time. And I actually woke up and it was mild to severe. And then within a few months, it became severe to profound.
Okay. Yeah, I understand better. What are some of the struggles you face on a daily basis that are related to your disability, like physical, mental, whatever you wanna talk about?
That are not related to my disability?
That are related to your disability, sorry.
Are or not?
That are.
Oh, that are.
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday I went downtown. I just recently, well, I don't know when I can stop saying recently, but I moved to Arizona and haven't really gotten to go downtown and check it out since all of my surgeries. So I went downtown and realized I couldn't get inside most of the buildings down there. Most of them had several steps up, and we're not aware that they are not excluded from the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it just kind of broke my heart a little bit, but I couldn't really do anything. I could just kind of roll around the park downtown, but I couldn't really go inside any of the businesses that I really wanted to. So that's one of the struggles that I face. Another one that I face that is related to my disability, but also not related to my disability, is depression. I face depression. I think a lot of people do, and it's not talked about. I get really frustrated. I know when we were moving in and I was hanging things and trying to put boxes places and I couldn't do it. It really frustrated me and I really got down about that. And then after my surgery, just not healing fast enough and not just a lot of times not getting my body to do what it wants to do is really frustrating and can really make me depressed at times. And also it can be things not related to my disability, things that every girl deals with. I can be depressed about, and not just everyday depression, but just, pretty severe depression.
Yeah, so daily stuff that people with disability would deal in like spaces or acceptance and stuff, and maybe it's not related about disability, but some people deal with depression and mental stuff, so it's pretty normal.
Yeah.
What is a story that you could share about your disability or diagnosis? Like any story that you have.
Well, since I kind of was just talking about depression, I will flip the script and I will tell y'all a funny story. So I opted not for a seatbelt, and I was getting on the train in an airport, and my caster wheels hit the front of the train, and I flipped right out of my face in front of all these businessmen, and had to get. This was right after being newly injured or on in my wheelchair. And couldn't get up very well by myself, but I tried my hardest to do it and look like I knew what I was doing. So that's sort of fake it till you make it story. With all of my luggage, people were very kind and were helping me, but I really just didn't want the help. Had that sort of mindset back then. But that's a story to watch your casters in front of you.
I bet
And even though the little thin ones are cool, they hit a rock and you're gonna fall out.
Yeah, I sure you feel. I bet you feel like embarrassed and like ouch.
Yeah, sometimes you can feel embarrassed when you fall out, but just remember, play it off. Most people aren't looking anyway. It's gonna make more of your day than it is of theirs. So just remember that. Most people have more to worry about. You have a lot to worry about. Everybody else has a lot to worry about. So just remember, when you're embarrassed, everybody else is thinking about more than what you're thinking about. So
yeah,
don't think about it all day. Everybody else isn't thinking about that all day.
Yeah, that's great advice. To like, don't let things go and just continue with your life.
I always have to remind myself I'm not as important as I think I am.
That's a
People
great.
aren't thinking about me as much as I think they're thinking about me.
Yeah,